Recognize Mr. Marshall for 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman. It's hard to believe, but 33 years ago today, I was a second-year medical student and decided to go into obstetrics. I know that because today's my daughter's birthday, our firstborn, 33 years ago. And as a medical student, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and that was certainly a sentinel day. But what I didn't realize when I became an obstetrician, I'd be spending 95% of my time with women. And certainly I saw the world through their eyes. I got a glimpse through their world more so than many people do. And whether it was spousal abuse, I did over 100 rape exams one year as a resident. But certainly this issue of sexual harassment is something maybe I would see more than other people. You know, why is a woman perfectly happy in a job? She sees me once a year and she walks into my office and she quit a really good job. And, you know, they would kind of beat around the bush, but too often this was the reason. You know, I want to talk about being proactive rather than reactive and challenge y'all. What can we do to be more proactive? And I think about culture. And my concern is if there's a cultural acceptance in an institution, this is more likely to go on. And certainly we control the purse strings. We give grants through the NSF. You know, in sports, we'll see if an institution has a constant disregard for the rules of the NCAA, eventually we give them the death penalty and you're done. You don't get any scholarships, you don't get any, in this case, any grant money. So it'd be more than just the single person. You know, where there's smoke, there's fire. What are we doing to kind of get to institutions where this is a socially accepted norm rather than just one person? And maybe start with Ms. Davis and answer that question. What can we do to be more proactive rather than waiting for this complaint to be filed?
Thank you. We believe we have several tools in being proactive, and one of those tools is to our outreach to let them know from a Title IX perspective when it comes to compliance, what our expectations are. But beyond that, those expectations, if we see universities where we are seeing repeat problems over and over and over, when we go in and conduct these Title IX compliance reviews, we could address those. And with the new term and condition that we have, the money, we do not fund the money directly to principal investigators. We give the monies to the institutions so we can have these really hard conversations that may be difficult for the universities, which I believe we're at a time right now where even universities who have had a lot of complaints really can see that
have you had any of those hard conversations with any universities or institutions?
When we go out on our Title IX compliance, yes, we have. We've had some of the conversations that we wouldn't want to go into specific names now that have resulted in some results that has made the harassment community a better community.
Okay. Dr. Clancy, you want to take a shot at that one, being proactive?
Certainly. So it turns out there's actually a pretty good literature on this. There are researchers who do work on what's called respect climates in the workplace. They're also called inclusion or diversity climates. Some really great social scientists who conduct research to try to figure out how do we actually start with the culture and move forward from there. And what a lot of that research seems to show is that we need to do a lot more of the hard work, not just, you know, like slapping on a policy and saying, okay, exactly, sexual harassment's fixed, but actually coming together as a group, you know, doing workshopping sessions, for instance, where you get together and ask, okay, what are our values? What are our shared values? What's important to us? What is the current culture of this organization? And is this the culture we want? So if it's very hierarchical, you know, which often happens in the sciences, is all of that hierarchy justified? So are there times where we're hierarchical for the sake of being hierarchical instead of doing it because of expertise or experience? And I think if we really encourage more science workplaces and more workplaces generally in the United States to ask these questions first, then they can start to put together value statements and do more values into action trainings instead of sexual harassment trainings, which just tell you don't do these behaviors. Values into action trainings and respect trainings say, here's what we want a professional workplace to look like. Let's encourage each other to do these behaviors, and it incentivizes the positive behaviors.
Great. Ms. Larsen, go ahead.
Thank you. You know, a couple of things. I agree with everything. The challenge is in change management, they often say that people don't change because they see the light. They change because they feel the heat. And there is no heat in academics. So there is no way to compel somebody to do exactly that unless they feel it. And in one of the cases that I have been working on for now 3 years with a client, her department has been found over 15 years by several external reports to have a terrible climate for women and to have it observed that women are leaving, including a NASA Title IX investigation. There is no one to follow up and enforce the department making any changes. The department has done nothing in 15 years. 2 years ago, a program review within the university done by the Academic Senate, which is where I say that we have the shared governance issue, also found that this was still a problem. The women were leaving in large numbers. 2 out of 3 of the women in this department went directly to that committee and said, we don't think the department is taking this seriously. They're not doing anything. And the Academic Senate still closed that program review and basically said, we'll review them again in 3 years. The Senate has no accountability and responsibility for what goes on in the department, and the administrative structure has no ability, because they're, this idea of department autonomy, they can't go in and compel the department to do anything. So we have a problem with enforcement. I would like to see federal agencies effectively saying, if we don't see changes, we will pull funding. And to the point about money, it is true that the money is given to an institution, but it is considered the PI's. And that money is abused all the time. I have seen so many cases where equipment is withheld from one person because they don't like them. This is happening to a tenured faculty member who was denied access to a lab that was paid for by federal money. And there is nothing that can be done about that. A reporting structure to say this person is abusing the funding that we had. Again, whether or not it falls under a legal definition, they're abusing the funding, and this happens far too often. And a reminder that it is the university's money, not the PI's.
Yeah, thank you, and I yield back.